Hey guys, welcome to the Wild Bit Show. I'm Upamanyu,
And I'm Meghna.
and we have got a great show planned for you. We'll, of course, be talking about the headline topic of this week, which comes from Africa and is about painted dogs. I'll just tell you that for now, and we can delve into more into the topic later on. Um, there's another story that comes from the Hindu, which says species are showing some signs of adapting to climate change. We'll discuss that and the pros and cons of coming out with such news. But we'll definitely investigate together if there is scientific backing in that statement or not. We also spoke about the role of judiciary. We touched about on the role of judiciary and things like that in conservation in climate change in a broader sense. Last episode, we have another story this episode which speaks exactly to that and very specifically to that. We will also discuss about that. What else we have, Meghna?
So we're going to be talking about how canopy bridges are evolving as a lifeline for tree dwelling wildlife in South America. Along with this, as Ups has mentioned about how we can talk about stories, how the wrong story can end up harming nature. So we're going to be talking about that in conjunction with the stories about how species are adapting to climate change. So how can we report it so that it doesn't affect them wrongly? And we're also going to be talking about how the world's largest krill harvester is at the center of a controversy over their blue tick sustainability label. But before we start our intro, a happy Women's Day to all the women who are thriving and striving to protect wildlife and working towards their conservation. It isn't an easy journey, and this is our day.
Especially being a woman in the world right now.
Yep,
Um,
yeah. So happy Women's Day.
Right. Let's get right into the thick of things. This story comes from National Geographic. Again, we love stories from National Geographic here since it has beautiful pictures. You can sort of rely on a bit of having beautiful pictures in those stories. But this story is headlined as Travelers Look Beyond the Big Five. African wild dogs become a safari stars. So, for anyone who does not know, um, Big Five is a vestigial term from the um, game hunting days, where the for hunters, the Africa was considered the mecca for hunters, as Africa is now the mecca for wildlife photographers. At that time, it was for hunters, and the big five animals that all hunters used to target was lions, elephants, giraffes, rhinos, and leopards.
Oh,
So
but I
these
think I think that has changed now because the Cape Buffalo is in there. Big five.
Cape buffalo. Um, right, yeah. So
So
big
the
five for
giraffes,
game.
yeah, I think the
Oh,
giraffes have
giraffes are
been
replaced.
probably.
Right. Okay. Um, right. Cape buffalo or giraffe and leopards. So those were from the game hunting days, and for now, thankfully game hunting is reduced down to probably 1 or 2% of what it was, in the yesteryears. But this term has stuck around, and this term now refers to um, the species tourists are most interested in seeing, you know when people travel to Africa, to the national parks and things like that. Um, so this story says African wild dogs are becoming a highly sought after sighting for safari enthusiasts, surpassing the traditional big five. Once overlooked, these endangered animals estimated at 6,000 to 7,000 remaining, are now drawing attention to their flight and boosting conservation efforts. Their elusiveness and captivating pack behavior, including unique hunting rituals like group sneezing. Okay, that's interesting. We'll have to find out what that is about. Contribute to their appeal. Increased tourism focused on wild dogs translates directly to funding and support for their protection against habitat loss, human conflict, and disease. Experts note a growing innate love for the animals once observed, driving a positive impact on the species' survival. The shift highlights a growing trend of seasoned travelers prioritizing lesser known wildlife. One thought that quickly occurred to me, Meghna,
Hmm?
could there be like Big Five obviously is a vestigial term from the hunting days, but could it be because it is a dog species, that's why, we never hunted it?
Probably. I mean, I also think it is a lot with, you know how there's a status symbol with hunting as well, like, the bigger the hunt, the more the praise that you would get, that, oh wow, you got a rhino or you got an elephant. But a dog is something probably that, as a male, probably, you would not be seen as a alpha, that, oh, you
Yeah.
hunted down a dog. So I would think that you have to be like kind of, if you're showing your superiority, it has to be for an animal that is superior in the kingdom as well. It's,
Right.
yeah, I
And
don't
and
think
probably also I think people definitely would be traveling with dogs at that point, right? Hunting dogs basically, hounds and
true.
things like that. So probably seeing another dog, they probably wouldn't have. I would like to believe that there might have been some spot for the dogs in those days, but what you said is absolutely correct. That you want to hunt something, and this is, I think, from our hunter gatherer days. Like since we started working bipedally and sort of started foraging and hunting for food, um, I think it has been the case that we feel this uh, almost a rush of adrenaline and dopamine if we are hunting down something bigger than us. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
That is, I think that is absolutely true. One, I think one, obviously it must be dog versus dog, and two, the size, but also the group sneezing that you were talking about. I actually looked it up.
Yes.
Apparently, it is a democratic voting system in the dogs
Wow.
to decide when to start a hunt. So when there are pre-hunt
Mm,
rallies, if there are a higher number of sneezes, that increases the likelihood of that pack going for a hunt. So it's like a quorum that,
right.
yes, I'm sneezing. I'm like, yes, 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 let's go for the hunt. Let's go for the hunt. And it's more like
Oh.
a pack consensus. And so it's a communication for like group movement.
Yeah, I think there has been a lot of research recently as well with dog intelligence and things like that. And we actually have a researcher, just plugging it there. We have a researcher coming up in one of the next episodes who will talk to us about dogs and their intelligence and vocabulary, etc. So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually. Such a cool way to start a I think pack animals generally, and we have spoken about this like both online and offline, that pack animals generally show a higher degree of intelligence, right?
Yeah,
I think
because
it is something
because it
about
rubs off.
navigating the, yeah.
I think also because you can communicate with each other, so there are skill sets that you can transfer within the group. But as
Mm,
opposed to when you're alone, then you have to kind of have the skill set or bring the skill set on your own. So you don't really grow. Your own growth is dependent on you.
mm,
But also it's very interesting. It says that if the alpha pair initiates the
mm,
rally, only a few
mm,
sneezes are needed. Otherwise, roughly 10 plus sneezes from lower ranking members are needed to initiate the hunt. So the higher up you are, the lower the sneeze is required to start the hunt, because like, you're high up there, if you've sneezed, then it's done. But if you're below,
mm,
then you have to keep kind of like pushing the group, I guess, that let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, so that you keep
yeah.
sneezing. So the hierarchy in pack animals, or in general like animals, is really strict, and that hierarchy is followed, and it's amazing that they have the sneezing behavior also marked hierarchically.
Yeah, That is so cool. I didn't know about that, so that's very cool to learn about that as well. But what do you think about this shift? Again, we went down a little bit of sidetrack, but what do you think about the shift in, people wanting to see wild dogs too? Not
Yeah,
only the big five.
I think that's a great shift because for years and years and decades, we've only concentrated on these big animals. I think we've spoken about how the wild cats and the small cats, how in the last episode, the small cats don't get as much protection and as much limelight. So I think it's the
Mm,
same here. And painted dogs are really beautiful. Like, I mean, they look very different from the other dogs that we know. Even wild dogs in India, like, they would look closer to the dogs that we find otherwise, because they're one color, but painted dogs have colors. So that's really nice that that there's some kind of shift, that there's some kind of emphasis there as well, because that would lead to their protection as well. And I think we need that kind of change. Like, you want to appreciate all animals, like not just five animals. When you go to a place, you shouldn't just be like, oh, I just want to see this animal. You should be able to appreciate the beauty of every animal that's there in the jungle.
yeah, that is very true. And unfortunately, it is the case in Indian jungles as well, where you sort of go for a tiger and you want to see a tiger, etc. So I feel like that's the case here as well. And I think I'll just quickly share my screen as well, just so you guys can have a look at what painted dogs look like. If any one of you weren't sure, these are painted dogs. They live in big packs. Generally, the leader of the pack is the matriarch or the head alpha female, and they are the ones basically initiating the hunt. So if you're the queen's son or daughter, then obviously the daughter will inherit that throne. And those sneezes, I think that hierarchy is very much set, not only in dogs but also like hyenas. So very female led packs, and very much hierarchical, both those canids of Africa. I actually don't know, is hyena canid? I don't think so, but I don't know.
I don't
um
know. I think so, it should be. Yes, hyena or canid. No, hyenas are not part of the.
Yeah, I thought so. I mean, nobody knows what hyenas are. Like, where do they come from? They're not, dogs or wolf. I mean, the same common ancestors, probably way, way back. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's probably
they're
something called
saying.
convergent evolution, where you develop similar kinds of traits for similar kind of, um, you know, environments and ecosystem, but you're not the same species. Nobody knows what hyenas are. Yeah.
Yeah, they say that they're in the suborder of Feliformia, so they're
Uh-huh.
closer to cats than they're to
Yes,
dogs.
exactly. Mm,
Even though they look more like dogs. So yeah,
right.
I mean, hyenas are a different species, and we'll do another story on hyenas. But with the painted dogs, um, I mean, coming back to the painted dogs, that is why we wanted to kind of name our episode "Big Hero 6" because this is now
Mm-hmm.
the upcoming sixth animal on the
Sixth.
sixth. And I mean, for anyone who's watched Big Hero 6, it's such a good movie. So we had to kind of,
Mm,
correlate it. But as Oops has mentioned, I mean, they're pack animals, and you can see them together and you can watch the pack behavior. I think it's a great shift that people, for whatever reason that the shift has happened, it's a great shift that now people would be able to recognize even painted dogs, and that protection would be extended to them as well.
yeah. And I think this article mentions lot of evidence that this is directly helping the conservation efforts. Like this direct quote from the article by Kim Nixon. Quote, over the last decade, our guests have become more environmentally aware and knowledgeable about endangered animals like wild dogs, says Kim Nixon, Chobe Holdings Limited's chief operating officer. So I think, again, in its own small way, this comes as a positive news, and this comes as a very positive shift in behavior, I would say, um, towards
Yeah,
wildlife and observing wildlife.
true, and I think for people who don't know, like wild dogs, especially the way they hunt is very different to how a tiger or a lion would hunt. Because for the tigers or the lions or the lionesses that would hunt, they would try to hunt down the animal in one swift motion, or at least try to grab the animal from the throat and try to kill it. For the painted dogs, or like wild dogs, they would all come onto an animal, and the animal would keep running, and they would try to like eat chunks of it while it's still running, because they can't
Mm,
kill it in one go. So it is a little
mm,
more brutal, but it is teamwork. So
mm,
teamwork, it makes the dream work, kind of thing. So
mm.
in this case, it's a very different pattern as well. So like for people who are curious about wildlife, it's a different pattern and behavior that you'll be able to observe if you go to see these painted dogs.
Yeah. I actually need to correct something that we said at the beginning. So this article does mention that as recently as the 1980s, African wild dogs were culled inside national parks based on the misconception that they depleted antelope numbers. They, quote, they were considered vermin and shot on sight, says McNutt, quote, end quote. Quote, bounties were placed on them, end quote. So they were not spared. I thought too much of us when I said maybe dogs were spared of the hunt or cull, but apparently that's not the case.
But I think it's very different to the prestige hunting. Like it's not
Right.
prestige hunting.
Correct.
This was more like culling them because they're vermin, like how you would cull
Mm.
sharks, or you would cull animals that are overpopulated, as we would call that. But I think,
Possums.
yeah, yeah. Oh my god. Okay, so I think this is more like a culling thing than the hunting for glory thing.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah. But I think the conservation effect that this is having is also huge, because obviously if tourists are interested in something, then the government will also be interested that those population remain stable, and the populations remain strong, so that when tourists come, they if they're coming for that, looking at that specific thing, they're getting what they want, which in turn means that they will be donating to those causes, or in general tourism terms, there would be more tourism because of that particular thing or animal. So that would mean the government would put in more, and more coming from the tourists. um
Plus, I think
and
it's great that you mentioned in the article that till the 80s they were looked at as vermin, and
mm,
now they're actually sought after, and people are coming to watch them. So that's like a big shift. Like that's a huge shift for animals that were looked down, and now they're like looked up to.
mm. I think this story is actually like it's sort of warming my heart as I read it more and more. It's in a section of the article. It says a new breed of citizen science. As interest in wild dogs grows, camps are inviting travelers to engage directly in conservation. Beginning this April in Zambia's Lower Zambezi National Park, Chiawa Safaris has supported wild dog research for more than 2 decades. Visitors may join ecologists from Conservation Lower Zambezi in the field, helping identify pack members, observing and collaring operations, or occasionally witness snare removal. Similar models are emerging elsewhere as well. So this is almost like it's sounding so good. It's sounding almost too good to be true, but this is great. Like, tourists actually participating in the research and contributing directly towards the conservation efforts.
Yeah, I think maybe this is one of those rare cases where social media may have helped, like an animal's
Mm.
image. Like maybe some
Mm.
tales about painted dogs have gone viral, and now people are really
And I
interested in
think
watching
it
them.
being a dog species also helps in some way, because dogs and us are so closely linked to each other. And this looks like a dog that you can have in your home. Big ears, one of your research findings, I think, your thesis findings, big ears is one of those things that, attract us humans, facially as well. So I think that helps a huge bit as well, or it at least plays a part in that likeness. But of course, social media might have helped hugely as well.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the rare places where it's actually no. There are cases where it helps, but yeah, this is one of those cases where it does help. It does more damage, but I think it's more like us humans, like we do more damage,
Yeah,
but we do some good. So social media is also like that.
right, right. Um, And the discussion question for this was can shifting safari focus from the big five to endangered species like wild dogs drive conservation success? And as we can already see, it has, in my opinion, to some extent, better than a lot other species at least, has driven success.
Yep. And I hope that this kind of shift keeps happening worldwide, and there are more and more
Mm.
species that we would want to rally for.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. I think there is a breed of social media sort of conservation influencers and content creators, us included, that are taking hold into the social media discourse. So yeah, it's a great shift in my opinion. Um, cool. Do we want to
Let's
move on to the next one?
Yep, let's do that. So we're going to be talking about how across South America, canopy bridges evolved as a lifeline for tree dwelling wildlife. Researchers are studying how mammals navigate Amazon and Atlantic forests using innovative canopy bridges, rope, net, and platform systems intertwined with trees. This research addresses the growing threat of forest fragmentation caused by development like agriculture and infrastructure, which isolates animal populations and increases mortality. Specifically, arboreal mammals like monkeys and sloths, reliant on connected canopies, are severely impacted and often overlooked by standard mitigation efforts like ground level crossings.
Hmm.
Biologist Justin Santiago and Lindsay Björk conducted fieldwork in Peru's Napo Sukusari Biological Reserve, deploying these bridges and using photographic equipment to map fauna in both continuous and fragmented forests, gaining crucial insights into their behavior and habitat use. And this is an article from Mongabe, and our discussion question is: can these kind of canopy bridges be replicated worldwide for different species? I think firstly, it's great that there are canopy bridges in South America because like one of the main problems that most wildlife face is forest fragmentation, and with fragmented forests you can't really get to your home or wherever you want to migrate to. So these kind of bridges help solve that problem of deforestation wherever it is happening. And this is great. So I mean, at least South America is leading with the example that it does help, right?
Hmm.
Oops, yeah.
Yeah. I think the one of the problems also which I have seen myself in South America is that the forests have, as is with any forest, I think, have become fragmented. So there are roads in between. Obviously, then the sloths who are especially slow and others, other arboreal animals have to cross the roads, which obviously they're not made for crossing roads, or they're not aware of the road rules. So there is a lot of roadkill. So this, even a string, I think, between those two sides of a forest, even a rope, not even a proper bridge, would, like, it has been proven that it helps incredibly well, because these animals are used to traveling on thin wires and ropes and thin branches and things like that. So it helps a lot with just connecting these fragmented forests together and giving these animals an option to travel like they're used to, not learn a new thing, or try to learn a new way of traveling between trees.
Yep, that is absolutely true. Like the road. like the wildlife bridges that you would have on the road are very different to what would work for the arboreal animals. I'm just
Mm,
going to quickly share the images that are in the article because there's some really nice images. Um, we're going to start off with the bridge, and this is one of the canopy bridges, which they are showing the monkeys using them. And
mm,
these are the camera traps being set up after those canopy bridges were made to see how effective they are. And
mm,
this is also one of the fake canopy bridges that are there, like I mean, fake as in man-made canopy canopy bridges that are there. And this is actually like camera trap footage from the night where a sloth is using that canopy bridge to cross.
mm,
That's really cool that you can actually measure the efficacy of these installations. And those animals are not meant to be crossing the road. So this is a documentation of an animal being killed in a vehicle strike. Looks like a tiny monkey or one of the arboreal animals, and this has primarily happened because of the road and no access. um,
mm,
and these are like a golden headed lion tamarin that has been spotted in the place, so it's one of the locals there that need those canopy bridges to
mm.
cross. So it's a
Yeah,
beautiful article with beautiful photos.
yes. And I think this especially highlights the need for these wildlife passes. It's very similar to wildlife pass that you would have for more like terrestrial animals, right? This is very similar to that. There is a huge need for these wildlife passes because obviously the development, unfortunately, is not stopping down or not going in a direction that these animals can make sense of. Animals obviously don't have borders. We did a beautiful story on how the wall in Mexico is harming the wildlife and their migratory routes and things like that because they don't know our borders. They might have their own borders, but our borders are different from their own borders. So they don't know that. So yeah, definitely check that story out as well. We'll put a link somewhere up here. But yeah, these bridges and wildlife passes are becoming increasingly important um, for animals, and I think we have done a lot of coverage on like terrestrial bridges and wildlife passes, under the road or over a road and things like that. But this is a new kind of wildlife pass that we haven't talked about, and it's not talked about too much yet. I also think South America, again, a lot of stories from South America, but they are really setting an example in a lot of different spaces, especially in the climate change and wildlife sectors, which is a great thing.
Yep, that is true. And as usual, like I mean, this I think this research is really interesting, and we will try to get the researchers on board our show if we can to talk about how they came up with this design and what their future plans are. But one of the most interesting
Mm,
things I've read in the article is also that they are researching which design would be most suitable for different types of breeds of monkeys. So some monkeys move by move branch to branch, but some monkeys jump and some monkeys are
mm,
more terrestrial. So they have to
mm,
understand a bridge design which would work for all type of monkeys, so their appearance, their shape, and the materials. So all of that research is going into these canopy bridges that are being made. So it would be amazing if we can get these researchers on board. But it's also great that that much thought process is being put into these canopy bridges and understanding how we can actually help protect these arboreal species.
mm. That is actually really, really interesting that so much thought is going into that, and that means the conservationists there are trying to do a good job, not just for the sake of it, which is mostly the case while when it comes to conservation as well. Do you think this kind of model can be
Yeah, and it should
recreated
be.
elsewhere?
It, I think that is our discussion question, and I think it should be because there are different arboreal species in different parts
Mm,
of the world, and the same design might not be applicable. But once we can prove that this is a great way for the arboreal species to cross across their own habitat, then I think
Mm.
this should definitely be replicated in other countries, because human intervention or human taking up the space in the forest is the main problem for like a lot of animals to be disintegrated, and roadkills and other problems that wildlife have. So if it can be, it should be, but obviously that same research has to go in to see what the local species are and design the bridges that way. So it cannot be just a copy paste, it has to be more than that.
Right, right. And I think there is a huge opportunity there for the local researchers and conservation organizations to step in there. I also feel that these, especially these canopy bridges, because at the end of the day, it will be a rope mixed with some different materials that will be, you know, useful for that particular species. I believe that it won't be very, high cost to the implement to the organizations that are helping implement these. So I feel like that research, we should take example from this sort of South American, because definitely I know that India is one of those countries that needs this as well. Africa not as much, because it is mostly grasslands and savannas, but India definitely needs this between its fragmented evergreen forests. I feel like New Zealand also could use some of these for like, uh, but I
No,
don't
I,
know,
I I think
not
New
interested.
Zealand, yeah, New Zealand would want to kill all its mammals, but yeah,
Yeah,
but
correct.
I think it would be useful in Southeast Asia and other countries wherever you have more forests and fragmented forests. So it can be used in all places across the world wherever there are arboreal species and there are fragmented forests. So it's a
Right.
great start, and it's a great way. There's so much thought being put in to the design and process. So we're hoping there are more positive updates on this, and we're also hoping that we get the same kind of stories from different parts of the world.
Yeah, that is the hope there. Um.
Yep,
So
I think we can shift to the next one.
right. Very well then. So this is another very interesting story. This comes from the Hindu, and this is basically saying species are showing how flexible they are in adapting to climate change. So, Earth scientist Raghu Murtugute argues for balancing climate mitigation with documenting ecosystem responses to global warming. While acknowledging devastating impacts like coral bleaching and species extinction, he highlights examples of adaptation, thriving reefs near Lakshadweep, and animals shifting habitats. Murtugude believes focusing solely on alarm hinders understanding biodiversity's resilience, crucial for effective protection. He reports a portfolio approach, continuing mitigation efforts while studying adaptability. He expresses skepticism about humanity's ability to consistently implement mitigation strategies, noting inconsistencies in the lifestyle of climate scientists. He advocates for a broader perspective, recognizing both the crisis and nature's capacity to respond. Um, Again, this is one of those stories that sounds very good at face value, and as it should. Like the species that are the flora and fauna do have uh you know fairly high resilience to certain conditions, and you know the scientist here, Raghu, also puts a very potent point forward, which we have discussed ourselves in this podcast as well, that this alarmist nature you know, of the climate conversation that's going on right now can is slowly starting to reach a point where it just falls on deaf ears.
Yep. I think where the problem is that we can't go all doom.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be like some doom with some hope, so
Mm-hmm.
that, because there is a possibility that if you're giving all doom news, then people would be like, oh, we have to anyway die, or anyway it's like in a situation where we can't come back from, so what's the use of even trying to save anything or trying to save ourselves? That's one way. But the other way is also that if you keep feeding positive news, then people might be more motivated to work towards it. And I also think, obviously I understand where oops is coming from, and that is a very, very, very strong concern, that if we give too much positive news also, then people might think that, well, climate change is a hoax, it's not real. And I mean, if species are able to adapt that well, then where is the concern? So that is the other extreme, where like all doom is also a problem and all positive is also a problem. And that portfolio approach that Raghu is talking about, that is also very, very difficult, I think, to achieve, like to
Mm,
have that proper balance where people are would be motivated and not just give up.
yeah, I think for better or for worse, humans kind of listen to the extremes. You know, there are very few people that are in the grays, as we say, in between. We like to operate in either this extreme or that extreme. That's why it often becomes in a political system, it often becomes like a dual party system, because one party is this side, you know, extreme right, and the other party is extreme left, and all other smaller parties are just cleared off the runway. So this is something we have to take into account, as Meghna was saying. And but we have covered stories about polar bears where they are showing signs of resilience in terms of extra fat reserves that you know that they're gaining, or some disease resilience that they're showing.
And some
You know,
resilience to the to the warming climates as well, with the
to the warming
gene with
climate,
the gene yeah, with the gene change. So
with the
there are,
gene change.
and we appreciate those positive stories. I mean, it's great to see that there are species that are adapting, or there are species that we thought couldn't adapt but are adapting. But we cannot just rely on their adaptation, because their adaptation is coming from pressure. So there is
Mm,
pressure from our actions that is causing them to adapt, which means that
mm,
there might be a threshold for them as well to adapt to something like this. So it cannot be all positive that, oh, if they're adapting, it's great, like we don't have to work towards the climate or work towards the environment anymore. It has to
right.
be very much in the middle, like how it says, I think for Raghu, it says that you have to advocate for a broader perspective, recognizing both the crisis and nature's capacity. The only problem I feel here, how do you draw that line, or how do you maintain that balance? Like that is where I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think quantifying that for the masses is very difficult. I completely agree with that. Even for us, it will be very difficult to understand where do we draw that line, and how do we, uh, you know, should we say, okay, we are driving till this point and then we have to walk? We can't really do that, that kind of an approach. So I think it's more about, as we keep maintaining that, more about the choices you make, being mindful of the choices and things like that. There can be some resilience. Nature is resilient to a certain point, but only if we give it space, give Mother Nature space. Only then it has the ability to be resilient. We mentioned this last episode as well. We have spoken with Jessica, who was in our show as a guest, where she was talking about coral bleaching and corals, the ocean acidification, and how corals are adapting, or changing their internal mechanisms to adapt to those more acidic oceans. But again, as Meghna said, that this is one story compared to all the different, 10, maybe 10 stories that are, not so positive. So there is some adaptation, there is some, um, you know, there is some uh,
Change.
positive
Yeah.
change going
Yeah.
on in species, but it is very, very important that we do continue on our approach of being mindful and choosing wisely. We can't let that go, at least not now. Maybe down the line, if we are really good at it, we really make good choices, and I still hope we can. I am, uh, I believe that we can. Um, Maybe 50 years down the line we can be a little more lax, or 100 years down the line we can be a little more lax.
Yeah, I also think also one of the main problems is that as a species, we
Mm,
thrive on negative news. Like we,
mm,
anything that is negative, we love to read about it. We love to explore about it. Like if the war is going on, we want to know updates on the war. But tell
mm,
something positive that this is healing or this is happening, and it doesn't get as viral as fast. Like people want sad news, people want news that they can sympathize with, people want news that have some spice in them, but they don't really gravitate towards positive news. So that is also one of the problems I think with reporting positive news, is that they don't get the same amount of traction. So
mm.
it's just innate nature for us to keep gravitating towards negative news.
Right. And that is, and I think we have discussed this phenomena before in the show as well, where this is the case. Unfortunately, all the negativity on social media actually gains most traction, and yeah, this has to, in terms of like the portfolio approach, what Raghu talks about. I think it's more about, shifting from this mindset that, only being interested in negative news, and also gravitating towards positive news, and gravitating and equally being worried about the negative effects as well. So that's what I believe he's wanting to see in our world. But at the same time, I believe that it's very, very difficult to approach that or to achieve that in the current scenario with the social media and other things like that. So engagement, like especially wildlife, and we are seeing this with our own podcast as well. Wildlife, especially conservation topics, does not drive engagement, especially if it's like a positive one, right? Because we have seen our numbers, and we see some of those controversial or masala topics, as you said, gain more traction on the different platforms as well.
Yeah, and I think in general, like people would want like people are already like struggling with their lives and everything, so they don't want to
Mm,
come back to wildlife and then only see all the they would want to see obviously positive news and everything, but I think in general people do not gravitate towards wildlife and climate news in general. So that is
mm,
also one of the major problem I think with balancing public engagement. Like for Oops and me, we've been doing this podcast, we've been trying to like raise awareness, and this would be a slow growth for us. But if we just did
mm,
some TikTok reels with dancing, or like
mm.
anything else, that would have
Or
reached
some
more
gossip
people.
podcast, for a matter of fact.
Oh yeah, anything page 3.
Yes.
Yeah, that would go viral. But just wildlife, it is a struggle to get to people. So when wildlife is already a struggle, then if you're going to like bring out the wrong news, or bring out the news that something is too positive or too negative, then it can actually hinder how people would approach that topic.
Yeah, yeah. I think, unfortunately, I think this might be a result of how our brains work. Gossip is always very, uh, attractive to our brains, and negative news and masala news, fulfill that side of our brains. reading about other people's misery, for example, or what they did, who got caught with who, and all these page three kind of news, unfortunately, is very appealing to us compared to all the positive news, especially in climate and conservation area. So I think the broader message is obviously, again, keeping on making those mindful choices, and you know
Rejoice. I think you have to rejoice the positive news, but not
yes,
go hard on them. Like,
right.
like don't start thinking that if it is positive, that the world is not burning, that the world is not ending, that climate change is not real, or global warming is not real. It is all real. There is some
Mm,
positive news which is great, but that doesn't mean that that is all positive. Yeah.
yeah. um that
Yep.
is a great note to end this topic on, and move on to the next one.
Yep. I think it's kind of in conjunction with the last um, topic that we were talking about. Um, it's actually about an author and his book. It says how the wrong story ends up harming nature and how we can change it. Indigenous scholar Tyson Yonkapota discusses his book Right Story, Wrong Story, exploring how narratives shape society and impact our relationship with the environment. He argues that adopting indigenous perspectives, prioritizing land and community, can offer solutions to modern problems like environmental exploitation and the cost of living crisis. Yonkapota
Mm,
identifies a wrong story fueled by selfishness and misrepresentation, exemplified by the aboriginal tale of Tidalik, a frog hoarding all the water. He parallels this to wealth accumulation, suggesting entertaining rather than simply condemning the wealth could unlock resources. Ultimately, he advocates for a shift in thinking, emphasizing obligations to each other and the natural world for a sustainable future. And I think this is very similar to our previous story, so we kind of like just mixed it together. His
mm,
story, even though focuses on indigenous perspectives and going back to our basics, it talks about how if there's even one wrong story, or there is one story about misrepresentation, it could draw a parallel and give the wrong message. So
mm,
we have to kind of prioritize the stories properly, and
mm.
not let the wrong story become the right story.
Yeah, do you think this is a problem with that journalist? This is a question that journalists might face as well. Like, even if there is a positive story going on, especially if they're conservation journalists, and I assume people working in Monga Bay and Guardian and National Geographic are, do they say that let's not publish this story because this might drive the wrong outcome, if we publish it? Again, we see articles like that, but I just want to understand. My question is that, do journalists deal with these questions internally when writing a story or wanting to publish a story?
I honestly don't know how it works for wildlife, but for other things like when it's political and other things, I think journalists don't get a lot of say because it depends on what the bosses, like the higher up bosses are deciding what goes
Mm,
on to print. But with
mm,
wildlife, um, yeah, I mean it has to be unbiased. You can't have a bias that if I print the story, you can't take a biased angle. But
mm,
there might be times that they might take a call on what should be published and what shouldn't be published.
mm,
But I think it's more on the importance of that topic at that point of time. It's not so much as how the public would perceive or change according to it. Journalism is also very, like, it's supposed to be like one of the pillars of democracy, but I feel like
mm,
it's not that. Like, the narrative is being written for us. So the wrong stories, I would feel, are shared more than the right stories.
mm. And that becomes increasingly important, and especially I think publications like the Hindu or the Guardian or Monga Bay, National Geographic. That's why these publications are so important as well to stick around, because that kind of prioritization and that kind of choosing the right story, not just for the the selling value of it. I think those kinds of editors um, exist in these publications. That's why they are putting out such brave stories, and they are having an impact as well. We covered how the shark meat story, had a huge impact on the shark meat trade in Brazil,
Brazil.
and that's why it is having the impact. So putting out the right stories is very important, and I think that sort of uh, just put in my head that maybe it would be we can try and get a nature and conservation journalist on the show. Sometimes we have had scientists, and we often hear from them, but obviously journalism is a big part of conservation and messaging as well. Written journalism, especially, we are doing a kind of journalism as well through our podcast, but it's a different media. Journalism always starts from the written format. Whatever news, everything starts from a newspaper or a publication. So it would be great to have that side of the story, and what are the dilemmas and what are the challenges that a climate journalist or a conservation journalist deals with. Um, yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is the thing where like not just that, like if there are news that would help the rich, the powerful, or
Mm,
the government, then things would be shaped that way. Like we have other stories where obviously we spoken last time, I think, also, where the judiciary that is supposed to help the environment says go and talk to this other department. Or there are places where when Trump came into power, he cut down on forest rangers and resources to protect the forest. So these are stories which are the wrong stories, because one person believes that okay, climate change is not real, and then the right stories don't come into picture. So people have been working that hard, then their voices get kind of subdued. So I think a lot of stories that are shown to us are usually wrong stories than the right
mm,
stories.
yeah, yeah, and I think the point you mentioned around wealthy and the powerful is very potent, especially because they tend to control all the narratives, or try to control all the narratives, and successful a lot of times, unfortunately. Um, you know, they want to use their private jets and fly in their private jets, but they want their carbon credits as well, where they can feel good about themselves and have a sense of offsetting their carbon footprint and things like that. And I think what the author Tyson talks about a similar kind of um, you know paradigm as well. Um, and I think the discussion question here is quite interesting as well. Like, how can reframing dominant narratives and identifying the wrong story drive more sustainable and equitable system? I think both the words sustainable and equitable is very, very important in this conversation.
True, and we're hoping that there's more accountability for what kind of stories come out, and just like how we
Mm,
spoke about in the last topic, that there is a balance between positive and negative stories, and there's more right stories also that come out. Even if they're
mm,
positive, they have to be right. They just don't have to be positive. So there is a difference between right and wrong, and positive and negative as well.
mm. And do you think, like, this word equitable? I haven't thought about that much, but this word um, triggered me to think that uh, right now, at least, and it has been the case for the last lot of years. I feel like different standards of um, you know different standards apply to the rich and the not so rich, in terms of, not only in terms of the wealth and the power, but also in terms of conservation. The rich are doing their stuff. They are traveling in their private jets. They are doing all the buying 15 or 20 yachts and causing immense carbon footprint, and they're expecting the other 99%, 98% to take the fall for all their crime.
That is true. I mean, remember how I was telling you there's this meme that is doing the round saying that me here drinking from a soggy, paper straw to save the planet. Meanwhile, governments and rich people like, bombing each other and having this war
Mm-hmm.
and, like just creating all of this pollution and um, global warming and climate change. So I think that is where it comes down to like at an individual level you want to do your best, but there is no, like, it's never just and fair, and I think life in general is not just and fair. The rich always get away, the powerful always get away, and this is always going to be I think the hard hitting point. Like, like people want to fight with each other and there would be these massive wars and massive problems, but like as humans we would rather be at war than try to like be at peace and want to work towards the environment together.
Mm. I think that level of equity and equality is a conversation that we rarely have in the discourse of climate change and conservation. And I think the rich and powerful, especially the people who are public faces, have an opportunity and an obligation to present themselves as, the the model for other people to follow, or a leader, but that is unfortunately not the case. But again, in saying that, there has been a lot of um, you know climate leaders like Jane Goodall, um, amongst others, that have advocated for this and have brought about a lot of change. And journalism certainly is a part of it. And choosing the right story for those kinds of information dissemination is becoming increasingly important. So, um, these dominant reframing the dominant narratives can, in my opinion, drive more sustainable and equitable systems. And just a shout out to all the journalists out there that are doing this kind of work and enabling us to get that perspective as well.
Yep. Yep. I think that's yeah, I just hope we do a better job at wrong and right and positive and negative stories. But I
Mm.
think we can, I think that's all we had to say on this topic, and we can move on to the next one.
Yeah, I think Meghna touched on the judiciary and the role of judiciary lightly there as well. This story again comes from the Hindu. This is headlined Aravalli Rao. Supreme Court asks Environment Ministry others to suggest names of domain experts for panel. The article says the Supreme Court is seeking domain experts to define the Aravalli Hills and ranges, pausing its previous uniform definition and halting all mining activities. This follows public concern over ambiguities in the November 20th definition, specifically regarding elevation and gap criteria potentially reducing environmental protections. The court emphasized that only lawful mining will be permitted once a clear definition is established. A litigant with a valid mining license expressed concerns about stalled operations due to the court's order. The Ministry of Environment, along with senior counsels, are requested to propose expert profiles for committee to resolve these critical ambiguities and ensure appropriate environmental safeguards. The stay order remains in effect. This is again one of those kinds of news where there's both a positive and a negative side to it. Um, Court systems inherently, especially in a very populous country like India, is very slow, excruciatingly slow at this point. But unfortunately, again, human issues are definitely can be of importance, but these issues often has a timer on them. So that means more you push them, or more you push the deadline, more serious the issues become. But on the flip side, I also appreciate the court actually ordering scientific research and ordering to bring in experts so that these decisions are not made by the cabal of mining lobby, or the corporates of mining lobby by itself. This is, in my opinion, the two sides of this story. What do you think, Meghna?
I think we have to also give context of where the story comes from. So
Mm,
the basically the previous uniform definition that they're talking about was that they just said that any hill in like a hill has to be above um how many meters was it? It was 1 second. The Aravalli hill definition. It was talking about, yeah, so 100 meters or more from the slope. So there are places where there are hills below 100 meters, and there are places where there are more than 100 meters. And so it essentially was killing all the hills that were below 100 meters by saying
mm,
that anything that has to qualify for a hill has to be above 100 meters. Earlier it wasn't
mm,
just a, like a height. It was depending on where the geography was and different things that were taken into account. And then there was just a landmark, judgment saying that okay, anything above 100 meters is a hill, anything below that can just be exploited. So that was the uproar, and that was like, what are you talking about? Like, anything that's not 100 meters is still a hill. Like a hill is a hill, and it has its biodiversity, and you have to protect it, or else they're going to raise everything off, and it's just going to become one deforested landscape where you're just going to keep developing. So that is where the uproar has come from. And it's good that there is a stay order. It's good that there is some kind of what would you say, that there's some kind of action being taken to resolve it, but it's just a very slow process. It's, like
mm,
the courts are closed for half of the year, and when they open up, like they would just delay things. Like right now they want experts on the panel, and we've spoken about this earlier as well. Like a lot of times, like when environmental uh, experts are brought onto the panel, there's some kind of pressure where they usually just, like have to come and have to, or usually if you're representing from the government, then you would look at the government's interest, so you would probably signal that it is okay to have that kind of
mm,
a definition. And you might not end up saving the environment, you might actually end up promoting the same definition that was given before. So it might, even if you have the domain experts, I do not think that the Aravallis could be protected until and unless people really take that stand. Like all of this uproar and furor has actually caused the Supreme Court to come to this level. But at the same
mm.
time, the Supreme Court is taking too much time to decide. Like it's a very simple matter. Like you can just roll back the definition and just say that all of these places are protected, instead of saying only the ones that are above 100 meters have to be protected.
Yeah, I think there of course will be that pressure from the lobby, the mining lobby, quote unquote, um, as well, where they would want to keep their licenses and things like that. And I think because there are minerals there, obviously we want to be economically and the economically viable as well. It must contribute some amount to the GDP as well. So I don't know who can make that decision. So I don't know if the scientists are brought the scientists that are brought in are truly independent and truly wish for the best of the. Again, this is one of those things where whoever's making the decision or whoever's advising or consulting in this case has to look at both sides of the coin, but maybe lean more towards the nature and conservation side of things. It will be a very difficult decision, even for the panel, even for the Supreme Court. But I think one of the points that Meghna highlighted is just, these things need to be hurried up. stay order is a great thing that nothing is continuing until this decision is made. So, um, overall, I feel like it's a slight net positive, but again, it remains to be seen that what the courts come up with, what the experts come up with, and then we can sort of decide on whether this was a overall net positive outcome or not. For now, it seems like it's a slight net positive, and the mining activities have stopped until this decision is made. Um,
Yeah,
but
and
we'll follow this story, and yeah, it remains to be seen. Yeah, sorry, Meghna.
yeah. I think the problem is that when they put the 100-meter rule, it actually excluded almost 90% of the Aravalli hills. Like 90% of
Wow.
them are actually below 100 meters. Yes, like they're all just hills, right? Like, and hills are not
Hmm.
really that tall. So the 100-meter rule was very absurd that you could just have a blanket rule, and it is only because there was so much of opposition that the Supreme Court stayed its own order.
Hmm.
And there's also a thing that the Aravallis are actually one of the world's oldest folded mountain ranges. So they're all like folded
Right.
within into each other, and they act as a crucial barrier against the expansion of the desert, like the Thar Desert, which is
Hmm.
just
Yes.
behind the so like which is from Rajasthan. So this is a very crucial barrier. So imagine like raising down the Himalayas, and then I think like even all of India would be snowing if you're going to
Yeah.
take that barrier off. So
Hmm.
every mountain and every hill range has
And
its
our
own.
fertility would be gone. Like all the monsoons would be gone. The incredibly fertile land that India is would be completely gone without the Himalayas. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, so it's similar with the Aravalli. So they are like a barrier. So all like how mangroves have a barrier near the ocean. So the
Hmm.
hills and the mountains are a barrier. And for your own selfish reasons, if you're going to just say that anything above 100 meters only qualifies to be protected, then you're going to actually put your own life at jeopardy when everything is raised down, and then it's just going to be one hot desert everywhere.
Hmm. That is really, uh, you know, bleak world that we would be able to live in. Um, yeah, so obviously we hope that this decision comes out positive, and in favor of the Aravallis. I'm not saying in favor what we want or whatever anybody wants, but in favor of the Aravallis and the wildlife and the ecosystems that thrive there. And I think again we live in a democracy, so if you want, you definitely, I'm sure there will be a petition going on online. um, we can try and find one and share the link as well, and yeah, just go ahead and sign that petition, and if and show your support through talking about it on social media or sharing it, just showing your support. You don't have to be political in any way, but just show your support for this issue. That would help a lot as well. But we'll follow the story and report back if there are any updates.
Yeah, and hopefully the updates are positive, and
Hmm.
we don't just lose the Aravallis to some random arbitrary measurement technique.
Right.
Okay, so moving on, we actually have a topic from the oceans. And this is something I think if you would have seen this documentary called Seaspiracy, this was talked about.
Hmm.
So the world's
Hmm.
largest krill harvester is at the center of row over blue tick sustainability label. Environmental groups are challenging the potential renewal of a blue tick sustainability label for Acre Krill, the world's largest krill harvester. Concerns center on increasing fishing pressure and climate change impacts on the Antarctic ecosystem, where krill are a keystone species, the primary food source for whales, penguins, and seals. Acre Krill, which supplies feed for aquaculture and dietary supplements, has held the Marine Stewardship Council certification since 2010 and is currently undergoing re-evaluation. Critics argue fishery management has declined since the last certification in 2020, citing lapsed conservation measures. The Antarctic and Southern Ocean Coalition ASOC actively opposes recertification, fearing further strain on the fragile Antarctic environment. And our discussion question about this is, blue ticks actually verify people's authenticity on social media. I mean, not the ones that are bought, but the ones that are
Mhm.
earned. Why can't the same level of authenticity be followed while certifying food sourced from ecologically pressured areas? So there is obviously a certification process even here, but it seems like the certification process is not as stringent as it should be. And this was something I think we'd seen in Seaspiracy write-ups. Like, they were talking about
Mm.
how there's, like, I think tuna and other seafood, and then it says like there's a blue tick saying
Dolphin
that
safe.
yeah, it's like it's safe.
Mm.
And then, you would eat it thinking that,
No
okay,
bycatch or things like that.
yeah, you would think that it's environmentally great, but they're just stickers that are
Mm.
stamped there. It's actually not a blue tick. It's actually not been cleared, and it's actually not
Mm.
protecting the environment. And I think it's the same here. And and with krill, I think people don't realize, like, krill are like these small organisms that all the penguins and the whales and the seals are feeding on. So if their food source is diminished or depleted, then all these animals would also die, because that's literally their only food source there. So we need the krill to stay in Antarctica. We don't need it. We don't need it in aquaculture or other dietary supplements. There are plenty of substitutes, and there are plenty of substitutes that are being developed on a daily basis that would be vegan, or would be from other sources that are more sustainable than actually going all the way to Antarctica and exploiting the krill that the species are dependent on. I mean, imagine that you need food to survive, and the very food that you need to survive is being taken away from you.
Yeah, I mean, krills are as Meghna said, very, very small crustaceans. I'll just share a quick photograph, and you can see the size of the krill as well. It is basically crustacean like a shrimp or prawn or lobster, but they're very, very small. They spawn in huge numbers when they do, and every one of the sea mammals eats them. Very small creatures, and yeah, we think there could be other alternatives. See, look at all the I'm very fond of the orange color that they have spots of in their body. The krill, a colony of krills look like this. There can be millions and thousands and millions of krill in that particular colony, in that particular biomass, and all the animals would eat them. We don't eat them, but the food we eat eats them, and in the aquaculture of things, it is used. So look at this. Look at the food web, that is beautifully presented in this image, and
Photo.
krill is right at the center of it. Krill is right at the center of it, after the phytoplankton and zooplankton. So this center, if it's gone, then everything else would be deeply affected, including us. So this ship, which is representative of humanity, is disrupting this intricate food web. And this is a beautiful picture, I think, beautifully illustrated. It's impacting the food web developed over millions and millions of years.
Yep. And the thing is, like, krill are really tiny. So, like, whales are usually like filter feeders. And they filter. So, like, because they're so tiny, they're able to filter and eat them. The whales don't really go after seals or penguins or anything bigger, because they're filter feeders.
Mm,
So krills are used by a lot of the animals. So, like little fish would eat them, and krills are so tiny that they only feed on the phytoplankton. So if you're going to take out
mm,
the krill out of the ecosystem, you're basically killing
mm,
everything, and the only thing that would remain would be phytoplankton, and the other animals wouldn't be able to survive just on phytoplankton. So it is very
mm,
important. And aqua krill, if it is the biggest krill industry, I think it's time for us to rethink if we really need krill in our dietary supplements, or if we really need krill as a species to even for our aquaculture or other kind of things. There should be better substitutes now. We do not need to go exploit the edges of the world just for looking more beautiful.
Yeah, and I think those kinds of research. I don't know if we are farming salmon, for example. I don't know if we can feed them something else. There might be, or if it's because salmon farming is terrible. All the diseases that they develop and all the images that we have seen, must have seen. Everyone must have seen. So I don't know if krill is required, or there can be a chemically brewed thing that can be used or something like that. But it seems like there is a heavy pressure on krills to deliver this kind of all these different things. I mean, dietary supplements. Come on, we can probably, we're ingesting so many chemicals and microplastics anyway. We can ingest some more chemicals and take our dietary supplements that way. Um, but
Maybe not as bluntly as he put it, but there are better ways of substituting it. But I think the problem is the even the farming that you're talking about, like the salmon farming. We don't need
mm,
that kind of farming either. Like, I mean, we put that pressure on ourselves to eat that fish, so we grow that fish that much, and probably the krill are being taken there. But there has to be other things that the salmon eats, right? Because salmon is not found in Antarctic or in the colder regions, that they would feed only on krill. So there has to be better alternate sources of what they would eat. It would actually be better if there was a way of not even farming them. Like, because it's like,
mm,
what is the bigger evil? Harvesting krill or growing salmon? I think both of them are equally evil.
mm. I think again, we do not expect this would be um, cold. One day we are harvesting krill and the other day we are completely stopping, like a snap off. It won't be like that. But I think it is certainly possible to slowly reduce our reliance on krill and actually develop other sustainable methods of farming and conservation. I think S- Sea Shepherd is one of those organizations that are advocating for these kinds of issues and working really heavily towards it. Um, but also, I think these blue tick guys should be held accountable. Like, what are they doing if they're um, that is their only function, right? Why are they even there then? It's a corrupt system. That system has to be looked at deeply as well.
I think it's the same thing of like how we've spoken about in other places. Like, maybe they're there just to give the blue tick. Like, they're not there to save the environment, but they're there to give the blue tick. So they're like, okay, you want
Mm.
the blue tick, here is the blue tick, or you want this, environment approval, here,
And
take
I'm
your
sure there
approval.
is some bribery and commissioning going on under the table as
Always,
well.
always, always. I mean, if you're that big, then it doesn't go without, like smearing some hands. I think that is
Yeah.
how it works. But with this situation, I think the way that there's so much pressure and there's so much talk about how krill is really important to the Antarctic ecosystem, there has to be a better way than just putting a sustainability label, because it is definitely not sustainable from
Mm,
any standard. Like, no matter how much they might argue, it is not sustainable, because it is only sustainable for the creatures that have to sustain on it. We don't need it. Like,
mm,
there is no way that it is sustainable to catch that much krill and still say that it's okay. The krill
mm.
would give more birth and the krill would be fine.
Yeah. And there's no way this was part of our diet as well, right?
No, I don't think so.
Because, I mean, shrimps and fish definitely were, but krill is found in Antarctica.
Yep.
And we wouldn't have, like, nobody ventured there. So there's no historical context there as well. So we will krill dredging and trawling. These are topics that are very sensitive and very important right now. We'll keep following on these kinds of stories and reporting back if there are any updates as such. But I think everyone should be in the process, involved in the process, should be held accountable, and um, the farmers, or the breeders should try and find alternate sources for the breeding and we should find alternative sources for our dietary supplements. Um,
Yep.
cool.
Yeah, I think this is very, very important. We are hoping and we'll keep you updated, and we hope that the blue tick is not given especially as a mark of sustainability.
Mm,
But let's just hope and see, and we'll let you know. What
yeah.
do you want to cover next? Oops.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm just looking at the um the
The topics, yeah,
the
and then you
topics.
choose it. Yeah.
There's this one story which is very similar to a story that we covered before. Is comes from Assam in northeast India. It says this is reported by the Hindu. This says in Assam, paper is made from water hyacinth to clear lakes. In Assam, India, Aniket Thar and Rupankar Bhattacharjee founded Kumbhi Kagaz, a brand transforming the invasive water hyacinth into sustainable paper products. Witnessing the plant's detrimental impact on local ecosystems and a lost photo opportunity of a rescued snake motivated them to find a solution. Beginning with handmade sheets in 2022, they have scaled up to machine production, creating paper comparable to standard bond. Their stationery line is popular and they're now developing biodegradable packaging. Both founders, linked to the NGO Help Earth, leverage their diverse backgrounds, computer science and commerce, to drive innovation. Mentorship from a local herpetologist further solidified their vision, turning an ecological problem into a viable business. Again, this is one of those success stories and using technology in a very commendable way, I feel like. And I especially commend these founders because they have made sure that there is a local expert, a herpetologist in the team as well as a consultant, which makes sure that the environmentally sensitive things are um, taken care of as well. So, yeah, shout out to them.
Yeah, and I think it's great that they've actually taken an invasive weed and try to make something out of it that is not just plucking it, throwing it away, but it is a way
Mm,
to make it sustainable as well. That, if you have these water bodies and you're taking out the hyacinth, there's some kind of motivation to get people employed to remove the hyacinth, to let the organisms and the other animals breathe, and at the same time you're making
mm.
it into this paper. So it is a really great way to transform it. I think oops, like the article has some really, really nice photos that you can show to the audience about how this paper is being made and sold. But
Yes.
and as usual, again, it's not a promise, it's not a guarantee. We try to contact the lady who put seeds in her paper that was being sold in Brazil, but we haven't heard back from her. So we'll try to reach out to these paper makers and see if they can give us an insight into their process and come on our show and talk to us.
Yeah, this article shows the process. I think it's great that a lot of locals are involved as well. Here are the founders with the chief minister of Assam. Here is their stationery in a stationery store. It's great that it is reaching the stationery store. These are sheets of paper left to dry. Again, as you can see, a lot of locals are employed and involved in the process. Um, Local women, especially. Again, this also connects with the empowerment of women and integrating them into the workforce in more remote places in India. So these are again a photograph of their stationery in like a store, and also we'll shout out their website as well. It's kumbhikagas.com, and this is great. They have that handcrafted some photos and videos showing the process as well, how the water hyacinth is connected. And anyone who lives in India, they would have seen the water hyacinth in the local lakes and ponds. So it is an invasive species in a lot of spaces, especially if it's harming the ecosystem. And you can also, I think, buy all their products from their website as well, if you don't have a store near you. So relatively economically priced. Of course, there would be slight a bit of premium here, as well as it's not scaled up to industrial level, but they have a lot of different categories of products that are available as well. And I feel like this is a great way to exactly do this: empower the communities and restore the ecosystem. Again, one of those projects that is a net positive in such a beautiful way.
Yeah. And I mean, these kind of things actually can be replicated in other places as well, because I think aquatic weeds and algae are a problem in a lot of places. There are other places, obviously, where, like, you would have kind of aquatic algae or weed or kelp, which is helpful, and our
Hmm.
homes. So those shouldn't be touched. But anything that is like an invasive species in this way, that is probably not letting like species breathe underwater, then in that
Hmm.
way this is a great win-win situation where you're clearing out, but you're also making a business out of it, and you're selling this paper. So you're in turn
Hmm.
helping the environment by supporting such kind of local entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and like employing local people as well.
Yeah.
So you're creating that opportunity as well. So it's a win-win-win-win situation, whatever you want to call it. Great story coming
True.
out of Assam.
Yep. um yeah, I think I'm going to do like a quick species
Hmm.
discovery. So this is a shark has been discovered in Antarctic waters that has survival superpowers. This is an article from National Geographic. It says scientists have documented a sleeper shark, the first of its kind in Antarctic waters, challenging previous assumptions about shark habitats. Captured by underwater cameras near the South Shetland Islands at the depth of 500 meters, the discovery highlights the remarkable adaptability of these sharks. Sleeper sharks, including the Greenland shark, thrive in frigid temperatures due to their incredibly slow metabolism. This allows them to conserve energy and endure for centuries, with some potentially living over 400 years. Their genetic makeup supports this longevity, featuring duplicates of genes linked to DNA repair and stress protection. The sighting expands our understanding of shark distribution and resilience in extreme environments. And I think sharks are millions of years old, like millions and millions and millions of years old. They have been surviving and thriving, and we keep coming across these amazing facts about them. And it's sad how much they're villainized. Like, I mean, sharks have lived here longer than our hate has lived here, but we cannot stop thinking about them negatively all the time. So this is an amazing discovery, and I'm just going to quickly share the images of the article. um, Give me just a minute. So, as you know, you've already heard about the Greenland shark, and you've seen the videos of the Greenland shark. It literally lives for over like 300, 400 years. Oh, Oops has already shared it on his screen. Okay. So yeah, that is the shark that was found. I mean, honestly, it looks really cute. I'm sorry by the eyes and how it looks. It looks really cute. Would you agree with
Yeah.
me on this, Oops?
I'm not me, probably not most people, but yeah, no, definitely there it can have an appeal there as well. I quite like the ray. Look how the ray is just lying there beside that shark, in the photograph as well, and some starfish I feel as well, or sea stars. I don't know, starfish maybe. Yeah. Cute
Yeah.
photograph. There's a mackerel that is tied up very heavily to this probe. I feel like to attract these species as well. So this photographs is documentation of a lot of things. but especially this shark. I think it's closely related, as you said, to the Greenland shark.
Yeah, and
Looks
I
like
think
one, definitely. Yeah.
yeah, and I think there's a video also underneath. You can play that video because it's
Hmm.
just a video of the same photo that
Right.
yeah.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. I right now I am playing that video. I'll just full screen it. Yeah, beautiful. Wow. Uh,
And
it
I
just
think
comes
it's the light from the camera or something that kind of
right. This is very dark. Yeah, this is
no
a
no
very
no
dark space.
like it comes towards the camera and then it just like kind of like goes away from it because I think the light kind of
Oh, maybe
does
yeah. It startles it.
something
Yeah.
that triggers it because yeah, it startles it and it just goes in the other direction. But it's
Hmm.
amazing that it was able to capture it, and it wasn't even because of the bait that was tied. It just happened to come across that whole area,
Yeah,
and
it's beautiful.
it's quite a different. Yeah, it's also a weird name I think for a shark, a sleeper shark. Like it almost sounds like a sleeper cell or something. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, this is extremely dark spaces. We know that Greenland sharks have very poor vision as well. This is extremely at extreme depth, so obviously very dark. But this is the ocean floor at that particular area. Um, Fortunately, I was dreading that I would see a piece of plastic or something like that, even in this photograph or the video. But as far as I can tell, I can't see anything. There must be something there just beyond the scope of this camera. But fortunately, this image at least does not have that, or the shark does not look very damaged from any of the plastic things that could be there. But look at the smooth bodies and how beautifully it sort of glides in that depth as well. Beautiful species. Again, I will agree that even if I don't find it cute, I definitely think that it is a beautiful species, beautiful looking species. Oh wow! I mean, Nat Geo, you can always trust on Nat Geo for beautiful photos and videos. But yeah, yeah, this is
Yeah,
basically a
yeah, and
Greenland
I
shark.
think
But yeah.
yeah, and I think the funny part about this is on the article it says we were all kind of scratching our heads, going, I don't think you're supposed to get sharks in Antarctica, like
Hmm.
recalls Alan, a professor. So they just assume that there are no sharks in Antarctica. There are like whales and there are killer whales and there are other species, but there are no
Hmm.
sharks. So it's quite amazing that they actually found the shark, and it was captured at 500 meters. And for anyone who's talking about how can these sharks survive in these cold environments, they're meant to be in these cold environments.
Hmm.
That entire group is called the group is called sleeper sharks, and Greenland sharks are a part of it. And
Hmm.
they're big body, they're slow, so that is how they conserve their energy, and they're found only in the cold deep waters. And they usually found in the Arctic, so it's really surprising that they've been found all the way in the Antarctic.
Hmm. Yeah. Great discovery. And again, as we have already always maintained, that this sort of discoveries actually highlight the importance of those ecosystems and help us better plan for the conservation of those particular ecosystems. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, imagine living for 400 years. I think
Ha,
I wouldn't like that. I mean, I don't know. What do? You just keep swimming through the water and living and eating and like really dark, murky water.
yeah, I think their survival techniques and their survival instincts might be very different from ours. We wouldn't be able to, as humans, we wouldn't be able to live for 400 years and, you know, be entertained in an isolated manner. But these sharks are, you know, that is their habitat and that is their home. Um,
Yep, that
cool.
is true. Okay, what do you want to cover next?
This story comes from Natural History Museum of the UK. A new species of living fossil had jaws like unlike anything seen before. A newly discovered species, Tanika amnicola is challenging our understanding of early jaw evolution. The living fossil, detailed in Proceedings B, possesses a uniquely twisted jaw and teeth facing sideways, a feeding mechanism unlike any animal alive today. Researchers at the Natural History Museum, London, describe T. amnicola as a relic from a more experimental period in Earth's history. The unusual jaw structure suggests a distinct feeding strategy, prompting scientists to re-evaluate assumptions about how jaws initially evolved and diversified. The discovery highlights the surprising and often bizarre forms life has taken throughout evolutionary time, showcasing the natural world's capacity for innovation. Again, this is one of those evolution stories. Um, this comes from the Natural History Museum, as said. So this was obviously a fossil discovery. So you can have a look at the image that was the fossil and the um, artist rendition of this particular um, animal, the Tankia amnicola. Um, and yeah, this gives us some more insight into how jaws jaws develop. That is so essential for all the animals we know. At least jaws are very essential for how we consume food and eat. So yeah, a cool discovery, especially if there are any um, you know fossil people interested in fossils and the you know excavation listening to us. This is a very, very interesting discovery indeed. um,
I wanted to know about the part where it says in the article, how did Tanikya eat? What does it say? How did she eat?
oh, in most tetrapods, the teeth and both jaws are positioned so that the face I'll just find this. So one of the scientists says, at first, quote, we wondered if these fossils might be the remains of a fish, end quote. Quote, it was only once the fossils were properly prepared in the lab that the true nature of Tankia was clearly revealed to us. Um, End quote. Let's see if I can find how they ate. It doesn't mention very clearly, but um, mm, 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 mm. Yeah. So while Tankia's upper jaw hasn't been found, it was likely that the teeth and denticles were arranged in a similar way. The denticles in both jaws would have been able to rub against each other to grind down food such as tough plant matter or hard exoskeletons of invertebrates. So that is our theory of how what this Tankia ate, and Tanika, not Tankia, Tanika ate, and what Tanika ate and how it did so. Yeah, very cool.
Okay, yes, quite cool. I think let's go to the next topic. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we're going to be talking about how these wild born birds have been recruited to teach critically endangered regent honeyeaters their lost songs. Scientists have successfully restored the complete song of the critically endangered regent honeyeater native to southeastern Australia. Once abandoned, the species now number fewer than 250 in the wild, and their complex song
Mm.
has been dwindling, impacting breeding. Researchers discovered the remaining wild birds had adopted a simpler tune. To combat
Mhm.
this, a team utilized song tutors, two wild born males, to teach the full song to young zoo bred regent honeyeaters over the 3 year period. The project, stemming from Taronga Zoo's breeding program, aims to improve the bird's reproductive success upon release. Restoring the original song is crucial for attracting mates and establishing territories, offering hope for the species recovery. Um, Now, I think I have two doubts here. One, I appreciate the efforts that is being put into tutoring, the new babies, the songs. But also, how do we know that the newer generations just don't prefer a simpler tune, and that is how they get attracted? You know how like in the era of 60s or 70s, people would write love letters, and the way of wooing a woman was very different, and now people are just sending one text message, and they can woo a girl. So what if things are just simpler even in the animal world?
Yeah, that is something that the scientists are will be able to answer best. But yeah, I feel like it can be that case, but um,
Yeah, maybe these are the
most likely not.
Gen Z and
Yeah,
Gen
could
Alpha
be.
of the birds. Like, they're like, oh, don't sing those complex songs for me. Just sing a simpler tune, and I will anyway be wooed by you.
Maybe it can be the case. It can be the case, but more likely it is a case of what exactly is described in the article, where they might be losing their songs. And bird songs, again, it is an important. We don't fully understand it, but bird song is quite important um, to an ecosystem, to a forest environment, and things like that. So if we lose birdsong from the forest, even as a visitor into those forests, it will become a very dull place without the beautiful bird songs there, and other animals that call out as well. So it will be a very quiet place for sure. Um, yeah.
Yeah, and I think I'll just quickly share the article once, because it
Yes.
has a photo of these honey eaters, and it also has a tune that they used to play. And
Hmm. That would
these
be
are
interesting to hear.
the regent honey eaters, and yeah, they're like, so these are the regent honey eaters, and they're the ones that are mostly confined to the Blue Mountains area in Australia.
Mm,
And I'm just gonna play this for the viewers.
mm. Beautiful song.
Yeah, and this version has basically disappeared from the wild. Um, and this is the regent, the zoo bred regent honey eaters called. Yeah, that's a really tiny call, but I think this is what they have come up with to try to, you know, replicate as close to the wild calls that were there earlier. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, do we really need that human interaction? We wouldn't know. But maybe if this actually translates to more regent honey eaters, then we could definitely say that it's a success story where the song being taught to birds is translating to better reproduction. You know. Uh,
Success.
Success. Yeah. So let's just yeah, let's just see if that's what it translates to. It's actually sad if it's because of us that they're losing out this song, this this bird song, and that it's if it's because of us that they have declined to this level. So here's hoping that these complicated songs find place in their lives again, and they're able to find their mates and mate enough to grow in good numbers.
Mm, mm. Beautiful birds, by the way. I didn't realize how beautiful they were, and quite big as well. Cool. Let's give a small update on a previous story that we covered, the about the soy moratorium. We Uh, our regular listeners might remember the bad soy boy episode that we did. It was actually take on a brand of soy milk that Meghna used to love, and it's called Happy Soy Boy. Again, uh, yeah. To anybody
But we
listening, we
don't
just
find
did a
everywhere. Yeah, you just
Yeah,
find it
no,
in some
we
places.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is a update on that story that comes from Brazil. From this is published again in the Mongabe. Concerns among indigenous leaders, relief for a few as Amazon soy moratorium falters. The potential end of the Amazon soy moratorium is a key zero deforestation agreement is sparking concern among many Brazilian indigenous leaders. Their fear increased deforestation, land invasions, and pollutions as a result, citing existing forest laws near some territories. The moratorium, a voluntary pact banning soy from recently deforested Amazon areas, has curbed expansion since 2008, but some companies are withdrawing. However, a minority of indigenous leaders view the situation as an economic opportunity, believing they can sustainably sell farmed on their lands without penalties. Stakeholders across Brazil's political spectrum are divided, with researchers echoing concerns about environmental damage, while some communities defend their farming practices. The future of the Amazon and its people hangs in the balance. Again, as
I mean, I
it's
think
very sad.
it's not really an update, but I think it's more of a they're still stuck in the same spot with the
Correct,
moratorium. Yeah.
correct. Yeah, it's not a positive outcome yet, as we observed in the shark meat story. But they are still in that hanging in that balance, which is really shame for the people there, and especially I think even above the people, the Amazon in general. It's a shame for the forest and the ecosystems that thrive within that forest, and the animals and birds that and plants that flora and fauna basically thrive within the forest as well.
Yeah, I mean, uh, it's just I think we need to wait and see if there is actually like a clear decision on this. But for now, a lot of indigenous leaders are definitely opposing. It's a little disheartening to see that obviously some of them or a minority of them are viewing it as an economic opportunity. It is very human to want that opportunity and to want that growth in terms of money and wealth. But but at the same time, if you're going to give that ban and deforest more areas for soy farming, it's not going to be good for Brazil, for the Amazon, for anyone in this case. So
Mm,
if we can get any more updates, this is the latest update that we've got, that it is still in hanging in the balance and there is no proper decision that has been taken.
mm. Yeah, if we go, get updates, we'll definitely keep you guys updated. Cool. What's the next one?
I think I'm also going to do one small update before we wrap up. So I think we're going to do about how Earth's heat to produce electricity for homes in UK is a clean energy fest. The UK has activated its first geothermal power plant near True Rock, Cornwall, marking a renewable energy milestone. Developed by Geothermal Engineering (GEL) over nearly 2 decades, the plant utilizes heat from rock 3 miles underground, reaching nearly 200 degrees Celsius to generate electricity for approximately 10,000 homes. This project, involving the UK's deepest onshore well, not only provides clean energy but also yields the nation's first domestic supply of lithium, crucial for green technologies. While hailed by the British Geological Survey as a major step forward, replicating the project faces challenges due to high drilling cost. The plant harnesses the Earth's natural heat, offering a continuous and renewable energy source. And I think this is something that OOPS really believes in, geothermal energy.
Mm,
And this is one of the examples where they've actually been able to successfully drill in and produce energy for 10,000 homes.
yeah, I believe geothermal is the future. It's a nearly endless supply of power. Because there's a fusion reaction that is being carried out at the core of Earth, and mm, and sorry, a fission reaction that is carried on at the core of the Earth, and uh, it is a nearly endless source of power. It requires minimal setup and minimal harm to the environment because it's basically a long rod that is drilled right into the center of the earth. The challenge here, the main challenge here, and you can see in the photos that is shared in the article, I'll just quickly share my screen, that look at the size of the power plant. This is, if not 1/10, even smaller, maybe 1/15 or something of a coal power plant or a hydroelectric power plant or any other kind of power plant. This is such a small footprint for a power plant. I wouldn't have believed if anybody said this was a power plant even 2 years ago. But geothermal is really making a impact. The hardest part of the process, of course, is the drilling, because as you go deeper into the earth's crust, it becomes hotter and hotter. So you have to have drills that are equipped to take that temperature and not just melt and just get stuck in there. So drilling is the most difficult part. And there has been a lot of research that is going on to innovative ways to drill into the earth so that this geothermal energy can be extracted.
Now, now I have two doubts here. Oops, one,
Mm,
obviously the drilling costs are extremely high, so it cannot
mm,
be very sustainable, right? Every renewable energy source has its pros and cons, and in this, the
mm,
con is obviously the high level of drilling cost. Even if it is a one-time drilling cost, it is high level.
mm,
Secondly, we do not know that when we start drilling into the earth, what kind of impact would it have? Would it cause more earthquakes? Would it cause more problems? Like, we do not know the effect. Like, we this is like probably one or a couple of geothermal plants, but if they start popping up everywhere, that amount of
mm.
drilling right into the crust, we do not know the side effects of something like that.
Um, because it has to be a very thin hole. I don't think we are capable enough to impact the tectonic plate movements. Um, by just drilling, and this particular, like you see, like this small power plant is powering 10,000 homes, so you can imagine like the impact of this power. Now the drilling energy cost is definitely a big investment that the governments have to choose to make, and also because you have to shift from fossil fuels to this. So I think if that money is redirected towards geothermal energy, um, that would be a very great thing in my opinion, and long term that cost will be tenfold recovered from whatever, even though the because the cost to serve is so low, the energy prices will fall over the decades, so it will be a win-win-win situation for the government, for the suppliers, and um for the people, the general public. So and the reason I believe in geothermal heavily is because it has over a 90 to 95% efficiency. So that is basically what you put into, what the amount of energy you put into extracting that energy, and the amount of that energy that you get back after covering the amount of energy you already put in to drill or extract that energy on a regular basis. So solar power, although very effective, is highly inefficient, 20 to 25% or 30% at the maximum efficiency at this point in time. Hydroelectric is very efficient, but again less than geothermal. Geothermal stands at a very high level of efficiency, 80 to 90% efficiency. So that's why I kind of believe in the future of geothermal. But obviously, as Meghna said, the cost is a huge barrier to entry in the
The
geothermal
cost
power
the
space.
cost The cost and the side effects we do not know for right now. Like we only know
Mm,
the side effects of solar now because the disposal is becoming a problem, and solar is
mm,
being used widely enough for us to know that the disposal is causing toxic waste. But when solar
mm,
came, when we had solar everywhere, we were like all gung ho that, oh my god, how amazing is solar, and solar is the next thing, and solar is the renewable energy source. So I think, like, in the starting, it's all praise, praise, praise. Still, we know what are the side effects. So it is great that we're tapping into the earth. It is great that we have a source with that amount of efficiency. The 80 to 95% efficiency is crazy. But we also
mm,
need to take into account, and we have to probably with time watch how how it actually translates into a full blown energy source if it can be replicated everywhere.
yeah. I feel like definitely it will be better for the environment compared to all the fossil fuels. So, a lot of governments are actually making that investment, that initial investment of drilling, and I do know that there is a lot of money that is going into the research of geothermal drilling and the drilling technologies. I will definitely recommend watching a video from this science communication channel called Veritasium. This is an Australia based science communicator that has a long-standing and very popular channel on YouTube. Definitely check their video out. They have a video on geothermal drilling and the efficiency and how it's making leaps and bounds there. So definitely check those out. But yeah, I feel I am a very firm believer in the future of geothermal energy and the bright future of renewable energy in general.
Yeah, so let's see, but it's a positive story, and let's
Mm,
see how it translates to geothermal energy in other places, the cost, the side
mm,
effects, and everything. This is a very positive story, but we have to wait and watch for every renewable resource. We would want for renewable resources to overtake fossil resources as soon as possible, but
right.
it has to scale up slowly.
Correct, correct. And I think this is the point. It's a great point to sort of wrap up our podcast on as well.
Yep. And it's a great story to wrap up our podcast. As usual, I have a message for you guys. And my message would be one, obviously, have you seen painted dogs? Did you know about painted dogs before our episode? Did you know about the wild dogs in Africa that are now in the big six? If you don't, then I would say read up. And next time you're going for a safari, then definitely tell your safari guide that you want to see the wild dogs in Africa. And as a goodbye note, again, like, if there's any woman that has inspired you in wildlife, definitely, wish her, learn her story, and tell us if you want any of the women that you look up to come on our show. We're definitely going to be calling her on.
True, true. Great message on International Women's Day as well. As always, do not forget to subscribe and follow us on all the different platforms that we are on. We are on all the major platforms. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked what you listened to and what you saw. If you didn't, then the other button works well too. Definitely gives us a lot of feedback in that sense, and share your thoughts. As Begna said, share your comments, share your thoughts with us. If you're listening to a recorded version of this podcast on your favorite podcasting platform, consider leaving a review with us. Again, that helps with the reach. And share this podcast with someone who might share your viewpoints in conservation, climate change, and wildlife. Or if they don't share this, your same views, share it with them anyway, so that they have another narrative in front of them. Um, and here's to wishing all the great women in conservation, out of conservation, our mothers, sisters, um, and friends across the world a very happy Women's Day. We will end our show here and we will see you next Sunday. Same time, same channel. Have a good one, guys.
Bye bye.